Hi everyone, you're listening to the Vialucci podcast, uncensored and completely unedited discussions about life and everything in it. We hope you enjoy the show.
Carl's going to get annoyed now.
Hi everyone.
Proper introduction, which we will. Do you know who that ring is? Come on. Think 50s. 1950s.
Yeah.
Political.
50s.
Malcolm X.
Yes. Oh, you won't get this one. What about that one? I was a bit more up your avenue, actually.
Oscar Wilde.
Yeah. Somebody said Versace. I thought, oh, come on, look at me. Mind you, Oscar Wilde would be your next choice.
Obviously an Oscar Wilde, Malcolm X.
Yeah. If you saw me at a bus stop, you wouldn't immediately think Oscar Wilde fan.
It's love and hate, you know?
No? Yeah, don't ruin it. Jeni Barnett. Hello. Jenny with an I.
Jenny with an I.
Was you born that?
No, I was born Jennifer Joy.
Oh, okay. When did you go for the art? Is that stage?
I was sitting in a classroom and I thought, I was a kid and I thought, I'm going to find what my autograph looks like. And somewhere I've still got that rough book with all sorts of versions.
Oh, you tried them out?
Yeah.
You were feeling them out?
Yeah.
So you were the original Jenny from the block?
Jenny from the block. But I used to have a big O over the I until somebody told me that it shows a huge ego. So I just have a dot now.
Oh, no. And what does that say? You haven't got an ego? Well, you got a fake ego.
It's not huge.
Right, okay.
But I have got a very healthy ego, I think, yeah. So
why are you on the show, Jenny, as you asked as a second after you came in the door?
Yeah, what am I doing?
Because I'm a fan of yours. You don't realise. I always end up talking about my bloody self. But when I sort of changed my life at the age of about 27, had to learn to read, lived on the streets for a while, upbringing wasn't very great. So I learned to read in my late 20s. But before learning to read, when I had to sort of realise there's things called like being a modern human being, and I just didn't know about history and geography or anything like that because schooling and left home and lived whatever. But when I thought I'm going to change my life, I didn't know where to learn from because I didn't know I was dyslexic. I didn't know I couldn't read. I just thought I didn't like reading. I was one of those people. So I thought I'd listen to radio and anything to the BBC. The BBC to me was like, that's what a proper intelligent person does, the BBC. Now I'm ignorant at this time. So I started listening to radio. When Radio 4, I didn't know what they were talking about. So I went back down to LBC where I could understand what they were talking. Still talking about politics and things like that and different shows talking about things that I didn't know were subjects of society or whatever. And yours was one of the first shows. So you've actually stuck with me since then. I was just saying it must have been about 15 years ago. You had an afternoon.
2007. I finished, I finished on a food show that I'd been doing for a long time.
Yeah.
And then they called me up and they said, would you come in for an interview? And I said, no, I'm going to America to stick pipes up my arse and go on a raw food diet, which is what I did.
Right, yeah.
And then I came back on, I can remember, May the 21st.
Yeah. Oh,
and it was the old studios near...
Leicester Square, no?
No, it moved there. It was the old studios near Portobello Road, and I was lost.
Portobello Road?
Well, what do you call it? Not Portobello Road. Notting Hill Gate. It was all round there, near Notting Hill Carnival. Little tiny place, and I was lost, and I stopped a car.
Yeah.
And a guy said, you go round here, round here, and round here. And when he left, I realised it was David Cameron.
Oh, right.
And I thought it would be the first time in his life he said, go left.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I
I started at LBC in 2007. I was there for a few weeks and then they gave me my own show.
It was in the afternoons, wasn't it?
It was,
like
no.
2 o'clock, 12 o'clock? Yeah, definitely.
No, it wasn't. It was the 10 till 1.
Oh, morning, you mean? Yeah, it must have been the afternoon. Yeah,
but you got up late, so you didn't know what you were doing.
No, I was driving. There was no sleeping then. I was doing 2 jobs. I had nighttime job and a daytime job. So
but I'd never done radio. The guy that taught me, a guy called Steve Campen, used to sit on top of a chest filing cabinet, cross-legged, like the geezer in Alice in Wonderland. And he taught me how to do radio, which is so different from television.
And what was the basics of that? What do you mean taught?
Well, I don't think I know anything. I've never thought I knew anything. And also, I don't like being a pundit. And of course, you end up being all those things.
Yeah.
And so he said, your USP will be that you are vulnerable and that you listen.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I listened. And then I had a almighty bust up with the boss and they sacked me.
Oh, you got sacked from there?
I've been sacked from everywhere.
You were great. And I'm sure you can't say, but why? What was it? Just
I tell everybody everything. I think secrets are really not good.
right.
Fantastic.
You sacked them. And
well, sort of. The guy there, I won't say his name just in case, but he was a bully. And I was sitting next to a young kid and she was crying. And I said, are you okay? And I looked at him and he went, chop, chop. I thought, Jeff, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, go for it.
I thought, who the fuck is this? Yeah. So
he actually clapped his hands.
Yeah.
That's quite ballsy.
Like that.
Yeah.
And he said to me, are you questioning my authority? And I said, fucking right I am. Which I did wherever I went.
Yeah.
Which meant that I got sacked from everywhere I went. But anyway, it lasted a little bit.
Yeah.
I lasted longer, but there was a vendetta. And in the end, they called me in, it was, I think, August of whatever it was. It was a Thursday. And I used to have a flat in London as well as living where I live. And I had a terrible bug and I had to go home. And the phone went, it was my agent. I said, you're right. She said, no, they've sacked you. And I said, why? She said, I don't know why. Right. And you've got one day to go in and get your things and say, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I said, I think you realise that I'm not going to do that. But then I went straight to Radio London from there.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, so because when I was listening, and you've got to remember my blueprints of people at the time, I'm just learning about society. I didn't really still understand what people were like. I thought they were just bad. And when I listened to your show, it was like I was listening to a nice...
I like that you're like, oh, people. I used to think people were bad.
Yeah.
And it's just like now I know that they're bad and also incompetent, or a mixture of the two.
Yeah,
Really.
now I've
It's just
confirmed it. No, but I would listen to you and I'd never heard... firstly, you were always having some sort of weird massage or acupuncture. There was a Swedish woman you would always do an impersonation.
Oh, yeah, Monica Johnson, she lives in Nightingale Lane.
Yeah.
But I used to call it Crankology Corner.
Right.
And it's because I'm interested in anything that's alternative.
And it would. The other thing was, you was always having to go at your husband.
The old git.
Yeah. And but it was when people would not agree with the things, these hippie-ish things you were doing, or you would have a call in and they wouldn't agree with you. And I can remember it would always be, well, I don't care if you think I'm a silly old sod. I love you all the same. And I thought, I've never heard anybody.
But there was a big controversy, actually, where we had only 6 callers. 3 were pro, 3 were anti. And I said I had not had my daughter vaccinated back in the day.
Okay.
And a nurse phoned in and she was so angry. And I didn't go for it, but I argued with her. And afterwards, my little man sitting on top of the filing cabinet said, you mustn't do that. You've just got to let him go.
Yeah.
And they accused me of trying to get people not to have vaccinations. Okay. Stephen Fry sent me an email in the middle of the show.
Oh, please say he landed on the right side of you. Oh,
just stick to being funny, he
said.
No. Don't do your politics thing. And 42,000 Stephen Fry fans cyberbullied me.
Oh, so he's being serious. I thought he was like being...
No, it was awful. And then it went to the House of Lords. And then it went to Ofcom.
Right.
And I was completely exonerated because I hadn't done it. They listened to it back several times. And I just said,
oh, God.
I'm not telling anyone.
How long ago was this? Because I think the anti-vax sort of...
that went away.
Well, no, but that's changed. I think the dialogue's changed.
It has changed. So we're talking 2010.
Okay.
Yeah. But what was interesting is that my agent at the time, beautiful, beautiful boy, said, I'm going to get onto Stephen Fry. So I got onto Stephen Fry. He said, you've really upset Jeni. And Stephen Fry said, okay, I'll take you to dinner.
Oh, right. Okay.
So he took me to the Ivy.
Right.
And you know that Fast Show. Is it the Fast Show? No, it's not. It's the one with David Walliams where they sit in a very big chair and everybody else sits really, really small. It's the Dennis Waterman thing. Is it? Anyway,
Yes,
I went to the Ivy, and I was so embarrassed by the whole thing. Well, I was embarrassed that he'd got angry and that I was, and I said to him, why does this make you so angry? And he said, because it's life and death.
Yeah.
And he'd argued with me that a mother doesn't have an instinct. Yeah. And I said, instinctively, I knew that the MMR jab would not be good for my kid because she's on the spectrum.
Right.
We didn't know that then, but I just knew. And I went wherever I went to one of my cranks, and he said, have you had your daughter inoculated? And I said, no. He said, good, because it compromises the immune system. Right. And little babies, I don't think should have it anyway. So I said, instinctively, there's no such thing as instinct.
Right.
So I ordered a very expensive meal and ran.
Oh, no, so it didn't end well.
No, I ran. And then I worked with him 2 Januaries ago, and he hadn't remembered anything. And the big lesson...
That's almost another offence on top of the offence.
Well, what I learned is that I'd held on to it, like I had with Ruby Wax, who'd also been very rude to me. And I interviewed Ruby Wax, and she'd also forgotten the incident. Right. You hold on to shit, and everybody else has forgotten it and got on with their lives. Yeah. And he's a lovely, lovely man, but he
But you still dined and dashed, though.
I dined and dashed. I ran from the Ivy to Battersea. I must have lost, I don't know, 8 pounds. But yeah.
Well, I used to... so I'm not saying about the Ivy, but I used to deliver early mornings, one of the many jobs I had, the food to the restaurants first thing in the morning, vanilla pods and yogurts and whatnot. And it was all around the central London one. So I think we started like 4 a.m, one of those little things that was running around through the streets. And it's just one of the times where I've been tortured in life of being forced to see behind the curtain. It's like I've been tortured by that all my life, been like seeing behind the curtain. And one of them was going to all these posh restaurants, and you would go round the back, of course, to deliver. That's where you went. And just the filth and the rats. And then you'd come round the side and you'd walk past the building with the Chesterfield chairs and the snooker table. Yeah. And the posh restaurants would be ordering like cheap brand yogurts.
And like, out as really
like
fancy.
Stacks of like 100 of them. And you just put it out in the wet. And some tramps would nick it and all that. But I thought, how... This is go round the corner, and that's gone up 10 times in value. But I thought, it was awful. And then the rats and the filth around the kitchens. I thought, facade.
Yes, we were filming in New York with the food show, and we were sitting, and a rat passed our feet.
New York rat.
And I refused to pay. And my makeup artist, whose name was Mycock, and her first name began with a C, so she used to write her checks, "See my cock." But I refused to pay, and she was really indignant about this. I wouldn't pay my bill because I didn't feel that. But then I was told about the hierarchy, because out in America, you've got one nationality that does the washing up and cleaning the shit, and then you've got another one and another one, another one. The time you get, sorry, sweetheart, I keep knocking the thing, but the time you get into the restaurant, you have a different facade. Yeah. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it really is like, and it was just one of the times, because I think I don't want to be that person who's always going on about society, but I've been forced to see the behind the curtains all the time.
Be that person.
I know it's lonely.
No, less lonely now. Yeah, I mean, it's always been a lonely one for me. I mean, I'll tell you one other story. I mean, there's loads of stories, because I'm 73 and I've been at it forever. But when I started at TVAM, I was brought in as Michael Parkinson's co-presenter, Parky, but I got sacked on the morning, because I used to wear dungarees and you didn't.
Yeah.
And on the morning, and they edited all the films that I'd made, and I was taken, the cameras were there, and you could kick.
Yeah.
And there was me, nobody else. And they asked for this one, they hadn't turned up, and that one. And then Peter J said, last but by no means least, Jeni Barnett. And it was like a slow hand clap. Yeah. And I said, great, and they took the photographs. And I went into the boss and said, fuck are you doing? I'm out there, all the papers are out there. He said, and I swore, and I wish I do all the time, and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, you've taken it just like a man. But I was then given David Frost's scriptwriter, the most wonderful writer, and we picked up all the reviews because I didn't give a shit.
Right, yeah.
And I never have really.
Yeah.
But I mean, in that situation, I didn't. Anyway, so it went on and I was given this and given that and given the other. And then somebody kept writing to me on a postcard, Bethnal Green, are you a fucking Jew?
Oh, no.
What does a fucking Jew look like? Are you? And I used to get these on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And in the end, enough is enough. So I asked my cameraman to have a big close-up of the man's address and his name, all his details.
Oh, no.
And I was the other side.
He puts all his details on
Well, he's a
racist.
schmuck. What does
Yeah,
he know
yeah.
if he's going to write to me? And so where he lived and all the rest of it.
The level.
And the other side was my face, very big. And I said, and I'm curious to know, what does a Jew look like?
Yeah.
And the hand went on my shoulder when I came out saying, we do not ask you to play politics. Yeah. We ask you to be funny. People like dogs.
Yeah.
Talk about dogs.
Oh, God.
So
Yeah.
I think my brother and the vigilantes went round, never heard from him again.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was a baseball
Best
bat.
to find. Yeah. Best to, yeah. Okay.
But those kind of things happened all the time. And then I breastfed my daughter, who's now 35, on air. And that was another one.
Where was that?
TVAM.
Oh, right. On camera.
She was hungry.
Good on you. That's it. Yeah, she was hungry. What are you talking about? Yeah.
And I put a cushion. I think it was the left one.
Yeah.
It could have been the right one. I don't know. But and we had sackloads of mail from women. And then I was taken to the office because somebody slagged me off in the newspaper. So I tried to be really hip and I put pale makeup on and flick-ups and a leather jacket. And I was called into the boss and he said, you made it was from Australia, you made totally tasteless remarks. You were wearing leather, which is redolent of an attitude of arrogance and defiance.
Well,
and but they'd been trying to get me out for ages because my politics. And
you
I
were
was
hanging out with the cool kids, smoking cigarettes. I mean,
but I was sacked on the spot, and I was the main breadwinner, and that was awful.
Yeah, that's terrible. Because I mean, you said you're 73. I wasn't going to ask, but I was looking at some stuff you've done, and I couldn't keep up. I thought, wow, you've done that thing of wanting to be like an actress. You've done it.
I started as an actress.
Yeah, and you've kept through with the presenting the radio. You've done it. You made the career. Oh, you're writing now. I now write, and we're about to launch a podcast. Oh, which is really great. Sorry,
okay.
Is that me saying?
No. The thing is, I didn't. I knew when I was 3 what I was going to do. I was standing on stage. No, I was on stage wearing a dress that had been sent from the Jews in Canada. And I was singing, tootsie goodbye, toot. And I knew then, I didn't know any more than 3 lines, but I got a huge round of applause. Right. That'll do me.
Yeah, the spotlight.
But I grew up in shit in the East End.
Yeah. And
I used to get bullied a lot, because I was dark and hairy, and my father was a gunnoff, as we would say. He was not a very nice geezer. And so they'd hear my father having to go at my mother, and they attacked me. Yeah. And at the age of 5, I had the thing, if you speak differently, if you learn how to talk, you will get through this. And it was as clear as that at the age of 5, and that's all I did. That's all I did. I started as a musician and I ended up doing what I did. And I've just rolled with it. Yeah. I've never said, ooh, I want to be, which is why I'm skint and I don't have any profile and I don't have, a CBE or a note. I'm not probably accept it, but...
Right. Oh, you've reminded me of something, actually. Oh, okay. It's right. They're going to have to hold on 1 second. Update to a previous show. Right. I was reading out some people that had refused OBEs, but I didn't have time to write down why, and it sort of ruined the whole thing. So I did a quick update. I thought we should update everyone with why these people. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to go through 10. I think it's important to know that you're not on your own in the world.
With not having an OBE?
No, in some people aren't just part of the system, whatever that means. I don't mean to be. Yeah. So David Bowie, he turned one down.
Yeah.
Why? Turned down, he said, I never. I mean, dyslexic. So when I read on white, no, because it'd be rude. So I would never have any intention of accepting anything like that. I seriously don't know what it's for. It's not what I spent my life working for. And that's David Bowie. You think he could go, just give me the bloody thing. Like they're thinking about their lives afterwards, aren't they? John Lennon, Yeah, it makes sense. Sent his MBE back in protest at the British involvement in the Nigerian Civil War in 1966. What was going on there?
Take your pick, really. I mean, like horrible shit, like in British history. It's like, all of it. It's one part, the whole lot. Most of British history.
George Harrison was not happy when Paul McCartney was not happy when Paul McCartney was knighted. He said to have been insulted by the snub, and resented being the shadow of McCartney. So that's not really a moral stand, is it? I would have taken it, but. I didn't understand this one. So French and Saunders turned down OBEs for services to comedy and drama. So you think, well, what's the? And they said they explained later down the road. I felt I deserved a damehood. If I felt I deserved a damehood, I'd accept it. She told Source magazine. At the time, we felt that we were being paid very well to have a lot of fun. It didn't seem right somehow. We didn't deserve a pat on the back. It felt a bit fake to stand alongside people who devoted their lives to truly worthy causes. And that's good because it's comedy and drama. And they said, no, we don't deserve it compared to the people we have to stand by. Stephen Hawking, do you think why he turned his down? Which is strange as well, again.
I don't know. Go for it.
It's nothing. It was it was later said it was turned down because the government had drastically reduced science funding in the UK at that time. Jon Snow. Does anyone know who Jon Snow is?
Yeah, the newsreader.
Yeah. But he did he'd done a documentary, or had a documentary coming up called Secrets of the Honour System. So it didn't seem right to then go and accept it. He must have gone, if you only just asked me. But anyway, so he didn't seem right to have done a show like that or coming up with then gone and
that's cool. That's cool. Yeah.
But at least he admitted it.
At least he's standing by his principles as well. It's so rare. You know what I mean? You're like, what?
Martin Sheen, the Welsh actor. What's he done? I knew the face. I couldn't think.
He did that wonderful two-hander with David Tennant. He's done loads of stuff.
Okay.
The Queen. What
That's
else?
right. The Queen.
Underworld. Underworld. Well, that's a bit of a sciencey film.
Nixon.
Why did he turn his down?
Will it be political when it's straight political?
No. It was to do with he looked into the British and Welsh sort of back history, and he said, "No, I don't think I'd be a hypocrite to Welsh people to accept it." And here's one I didn't expect: Nigella Lawson. Why do you think she turned one down?
I don't know. Her dad's a bit of a maniac, isn't he? So
no, nothing too specific to be. But she said, "I'm not saving lives, and I'm not doing anything other than something I absolutely love."
All she's doing is using a microwave. That's what she
called
the No, that's what she called the microwave.
Yeah, microwave.
Oh, that's one of those things that you have to nick for the rest of your life just to annoy people. And I didn't see it coming either, so that's quite a good one. Skepta. I didn't even know who this was. Skepta.
Yeah. Well, good for him.
Hang on, who is it? You don't know who it is.
He's a rapper.
Come on.
Yeah, of course he is.
Oh, no.
I didn't know that.
What are we like?
My daughter's a musician. I should know these things.
Skepta. Tottenham. Well, he's born Tottenham, same as me. So I'm good.
Are we Spurs fans?
I don't like football.
I don't care whether you like it or not. Are we Spurs fans?
Who?
You, me, I am. Come on. Yeah, up the Spurs. Carry on.
Football. So I'll give him his thing because I didn't know who he was. He turned down an MBE for the 2017 New Year's Honours. He dropped the bombshell on his song Hypocrisy. In the second verse of Hypocrisy, he's a grime artist, raps, just came back from the Ivors. What's that?
The Ivor Novello Awards.
Oh, okay.
Songwriting Awards.
Oh, it's so good to have somebody trendy such as yourself in Ivors.
Trendy?
And look at what we collected. The MBE got rejected. I'm not trying to be accepted. There's a little bit of hip hop there for the
good for him.
The under 40s. Yeah. John Cleese, why did he accept? I thought he was well in with the establishment. Any idea?
No, well, he must have seen Hypocrisy somewhere, mustn't he?
He declined because he felt staying in England during the winter months to fulfil his role as a working peer was too much of a price to pay.
Yeah, he lives in the Caribbean, doesn't he, I think?
I don't know where he lives, but that's good. That's a committed man who doesn't want to
Yeah, he was offered a peerage and the CBE, but he said the CBEs are silly. Fair enough.
He should know.
Danny Boyle, one of the best directors in the UK. It's just not me, he said. He added thousands were involved in executing the ceremony. You make those speeches about this, everybody's work, blah, 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 and you've got to mean it. And I didn't mean it, and it is true. And it's the only way you can carry on something like that through the efforts of all these people. I don't know whether I'll ever get invited back to the palace. So I think he was talking about the Olympic ceremony award at the Olympic ceremony.
Yeah.
Ronald Dahl.
Well, that's interesting because in his youth, he was a bit of an old racist, was our Roald.
Yes. and supposedly worked for the Secret Service or something, military intelligence.
I don't know. You sit there because you know everything. Is that why you're there? You've got a head full of facts.
Yeah.
Why did he?
Do you know, it's not that moral. So Charlie and the Chocolate Factory author Ronald Dahl rejected... Roald. It's not... Oh, yeah, my dyslexia put an N in there. Yeah, Roald. Oh, God, I've only just realised that.
Yeah.
Roald Dahl. What names? Where's that?
Roald.
Is that a stage name?
No, it's Scandinavian.
Roald, okay. Rejected OBE in the 1986 New Year's Honours. It's thought that he was hoping for a knighthood instead, but he apparently died in 1990 and didn't get either. See, you start playing games. I don't know who this is.
Did you accept one?
No.
Why?
I was just a few months ago. Well, my background, poverty, and having to look up at the wall. I was in a restaurant in Windsor, and I wasn't a fan of the menu. I don't like them individually as individual. It's just the thing I don't like. And sat at a restaurant, looking up at Windsor Castle, and actually seeing that's a castle. This isn't in a book. This is real. And I said, what made it more human, or worse for me, was I saw a little window open and somebody put a light on. So it wasn't even like this ethereal thing. It was like a living place. And Windsor's got a lot of homeless people. And I just thought, this is embarrassment. In fact, when I got a TV after 20 years, so I put a TV in the flat, and one of the first things that was on was, what happened with the Queen recently? There was something on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Jubilee?
Yeah. Is it a birthday? Is that what it is?
70th.
Oh, okay.
Year of being Queen.
And I was watching all these people come up the stairs and going in. I thought, this is a pantomime. This isn't something you should be taking seriously. But the watch is looking up at that wall at Windsor. I was like, this is what's going on here. My brain can't handle this. Is real. This is laughable.
Okay, during the Jubilee, I think we did a show actually, and then afterwards I went down to Trafalgar Square and just to see what was going on because I think my cousins were down there. So I thought, I was thinking maybe I'll see them in a sea of 80,000 people. I'll be like, oh, look, there they are. Yeah, brilliant. All right. But what I did is I bought a burrito. I ate it, hung around for about 20 minutes, and then I went home. It wasn't really. It was like a festival. It was like a music festival where none of the acts were ever going to show up. It just had that vibe of like people just hanging around in a big group. But there was no event. You know what I mean? It's not like it's like a football match, but then there's no match.
But that's because it was done for the television.
Yes.
So you would just like rent a crowd, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, if the thing is with them, it's just one big PR event. It's just constant PR event after PR event. I'm going to come back to the awards thing after this. What do you say? It's like a big ceremony. What was the word you used? Event.
Jubilee.
No, don't worry. I'll come back to that thing. Anyway, so the last one. Hang on, those two. Jim Broadbent.
Lovely Jim Broadbent.
What did he do?
Well, Jim Broadbent is a really lovely actor, but he came from a kind of, most of us when we started in the early 70s were all progressively on the left.
Yeah.
And Jim Broadbent was one of those.
On the left. Okay. Sometimes he didn't think it was right to accept it. He said, I'm not that comfortable with actors receiving honours, partly because I think they ought to go to those who really help others. Besides, I like the idea of actors not being part of the establishment.
Exactly.
We're vagabonds and rogues, and we're not part of the authorities and establishments, really. If you mix the two together, things get blurry. That's quite good.
Yeah.
And lastly, British poet Benjamin Zephaniah.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Well, you know Benjamin Zephaniah.
I know the name. I don't know.
He's wonderful dread. Comes from near. Is
South
he
London?
Birmingham? He's not Wolverhampton.
Oh,
he's
he is.
Birmingham. Yeah.
His response to being offered an OBE was suitably poetic. Wrote Zephaniah. Me, I thought. OBE, me, up yours. I thought, I get angry when I hear the word empire. It reminds me of slavery. It reminds me of thousands of years of brutality. It reminds me of how my foremothers were raped and my forefathers brutalized. Which is, I hope he didn't put that on the letter and send it back. That's quite harsh.
Well,
it's true.
I think it's just yes or no.
Yeah, yeah.
not sure.
No, thank you would have been fine. That letter back to him saying no thanks would have been fine.
But they know that.
Yeah.
They know that.
Yes.
The royal family know that they raped and pillaged and the whole of our society is based on that. Sorry.
So, talking of, what was the word you used? You said it's like a concert or something. You used the word. Anyway.
Festival,
that was it. Have you seen, there's two documentaries on Netflix. Just one of those things that just happens every now and again that you've got to watch. And it was, Woodstock. So they did Woodstock. They did Woodstock in 99.
Oh, God.
And did you see the documentary on what happened?
I am familiar with some of the events of Woodstock 99.
It's just come on Netflix now. So you imagine it was just capitalism going, do you remember Woodstock? Right, well, we're going to have a modern Woodstock. The problem is, replace weed and LSD with alcohol, right? And capitalism, like just ripping Woodstock. There was no, Woodstock was just the name. Everything else was privatized. So like they were selling water bottles for $4 in the 90s. So there were signs on saying capitalist pig and all that. Like there was people, see, they privatized the water being sold there. Every person turning up, topless, groups of 20s, didn't know, never heard the word Woodstock before. A couple of people sort of wandering through the crowds, trying to not be assaulted. Instead of sort of Jimi Hendrix and these sort of people, they had like Smash the Machine or these people. I don't know, whatever the names are. Some black was literally in the fetal position, screaming in the microphone, singing, dressed in black on the floor. And I think this isn't really Woodstock. Then they had some rapper.
It's not Woodstock vibes.
Yeah,
let's say like tonally. I think
there was a rapper.
Yeah.
Rock rap or something. Kid Rock, something like that.
Yeah, that was a thing.
The guy on the guitar had no clothes on at all. That was a thing. Whatever. The other guy was jumping up and down, showing "Let's smash the place to pieces."
When was this?
99, Woodstock. 99. There was no water. The toilet facilities all completely broke down. They weren't being fixed, so that went everywhere. They all leaked everywhere, all over the place. The water got polluted. The health and safety has to come in. The guy said from the water board, he came in and he took samples. He said, I came back the next day and all the petri dishes were full of like bacteria. People were sliding in the mud thinking it was water, but it was sewage.
Oh.
He said people were coming out like they're going to the hospital. They had all colds in their mouth like the next day. They had the water problem. People started stealing, robbing. There were multiple gang rapes because all the girls were turning up with the tops off. It reminded me of sort of Jackass, them sort of guys. Like there was no Woodstock. They were sort of guy was carrying around a piece of wood and smashing his head on the piece of wood. It was groups of blokes jumping on it. Yeah, we're here to do this. We're here to do that. This and that. And then in their wisdom, at the end, one of the last nights, there's like 3 days of like hell. Like they've had to go on a PR mission to say like everything's fine, even though all the assaults, there's like thousands of people have been sick with hydration. They speak to the ambulance man. He said, I wanted to go home. He said it didn't stop. There's just the sickness and the violence and the blah, blah, blah. And then the last day, when everyone hasn't slept, drunk, the filth, he said everyone was saying it absolutely stunk. People were leaving. They decided as a sign of peace, like they still think it's wood, they handed out 100,000 candles on the last night. 3 days in, everyone pissed off. The whole place was burnt to the ground.
I was just going to say sewage would have gone up in flames.
The presenters that they spoke to from MTV there literally had to get out there. They said, right, we need to get you out of here now, because they were pulling down the sound barriers, like tippling over things where the cameras were and smashing them up.
I mean, this is it was quite bad, but I mean, this is kind of like most festivals.
No,
like
there
was an element of like
they were turning over the
chaos.
lorries, they were turning over the cars, setting fire to everything. Propane gas tanks were blowing up all the lorries because they were setting fire to stuff. Then they moved to where the production houses were on the back end of the field because it was like midnight. Everyone had to basically escape. The production had to barricade themselves in the buildings to stop people getting in. They were setting fire to everything. They were overturning the cash machines that were there, robbing everything. The National Guard had to come
It was a
in.
big success then.
Yeah.
Well, it lived in the memory for different reasons.
Yeah.
I think Woodstock is.
But the whole place, it was absolute
idealised,
fear of the people that worked there. The lady from it, she said, the one in the back, there was a singer, like a Sheryl Crow type figure had gone on there, and they were just screaming at her to get her clothes off. And she was sort of like trying to be funny, and then she said, "Just getting out of it," and they had to rush her off the stage to get her out of here. And the people that hired on the rapper was, "Let's smash the place. Fuck this is fashion." And people started smashing up the place. Anyway, so the whole place it starts with a camera crew coming in. And it looks like Beirut. There's just everything's just burning cinders. They were pulling down wall. Then they show the PR of the guy that owns it. He said, no, they were trying to take souvenirs. This car's getting blown up all over the place. But everyone was in danger. They had to barricade themselves in because it was just filth. So go and watch it just to see.
What's it called?
It's called Woodstock 99.
Okay.
It's on Netflix.
Said there were two.
The other one, just one of those things that happened. There was you have to forget everything you know about the police force now. Okay, this is the 80s, which you shouldn't. It's only the 80s. It's called Gladbeck. Does that mean anything to you? So in Germany, I think the place was called Gladbeck.
Oh, it's a place. There
was
in Germany.
Two guys and a woman escaped from jail. I think they were lifers. Got nothing to lose. I think they kidnapped somebody or something. The whole documentary is used just with the video footage of the time, like nothing else. It's just footage. They escape, blah blah, get a gun. They want somebody to speak to. They're going to kill someone. The journalists turn up. Police don't want to get involved because they don't know what to do. There was they didn't have snatch squads like they did now in Germany.
When
then.
was this? The 80s.
Yeah, they were a bit worried about setting up forces in Germany even back in the 80s, but so they didn't have any sort of official thing.
Well, a lot of police forces had this problem, like 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
we did in this country. I mean, the Hungerford ship massacre. Like the police weren't really equipped to deal with that. Like one guy walking around with like one gun. Like they were just like, what do we do? We're gonna have to get the armed response squad from like London or something. You know what I mean? We're going to get the anti-terrorism or the army in. Like they really just didn't know how to handle it.
Apparently a law because of this where journalists aren't allowed to fraternise with the criminals, because what happened is the journalists all turned up to this kidnapping and started edging towards this guy and speaking to him, and he was quite an affable bloke. Like one was a nutter, you could tell, and the woman was sort of in between, and he was just like, I've got nothing to live for, I don't care.
This sounds like this film Dog Eat Dog, where this camera crew meet like a serial killer and they end up like sort of hang. I think it's a Norwegian film, Danish film, and like they send out Belgian. I can't remember, but they end up sort of hanging around him and sort of helping him get away and dispose of bodies, so they become sort of implicated. Yeah.
Well, these ones, the sort of all the camera crews turn up. So it goes on for 3 days. So they turn up. This guy's like blah blah blah. The people are going, "Where's the police? Where's the police? He's going to kill someone." And anyway, he said, "Well, I want a car. I'm going to kill someone." And they're getting annoyed on his behalf, saying like they go through all the repertoire.
Get this man a car and a shotgun. Yeah.
I think he ends up taking the journalist that he likes. He gives him his car, so then he drives off somewhere. Then they catch up with him, but now he's jumped onto a bus, the three of them, and taken all the things hostages. So now it's escalated, and he's coming out with his demands. He wants this and wants that. Police still won't get involved because they don't know what to do. But all the journalists, there's like 30 journalists with cameras, sitting there with cameras, talking to him, giving him cigarettes. Why are you doing this? Well, I'm annoyed at this, and I didn't do that. And where did you grow up? And it goes on. It gets to the point they've got nothing else to say to him because he's answered everything. They're just sitting there like in silence, just smoking a cigarette. And then he starts getting annoyed because they're not turning up to do things. The woman, they move the bus to another location. So he's jumped from one person to now he's got a bus full of people, kids, everything. They go to another location. They're stopping at shops to sort of go in and get food, coming out. They're all on speed, like they're off their heads. And then the woman has to go to the toilet. I think like the next day, she has to go to the toilet. She goes into a shop and they start playing the subtitles for the radio communications between the police, and they don't know what to do. And so do we grab her? Do we not? And they went, yeah, grab her. So they pile in, grab her, take her away. Then the guy finds out that the girl that went in to use the toilet has been nabbed. He starts saying, you better get her back or I'm going to kill someone. It takes 45 minutes to bring her back.
They bring her back.
They brought her back from the police station, put her on the coach.
This is like a sort of Tarantino script that never got made.
And now this is like all the news channels know. So they're all there with cameras and video footage, and the few of them like him, and they're quite amiable guy. So the other one is like the wide-eyed, I will shoot someone, and he's having to calm the other one down. Like, and this is all being filmed. They don't turn the cameras off. Then they drive somewhere else. They say, I want a car. The journalist is having to go to the police and say, listen, this is what he wants. Will you bloody well give him it? And then they get a car, but they take a hostage. Somebody does get shot on the coach. They give him, he wants to say, I want a BMW M5. So they give him a BMW M5. He drives off, and all the journalists get in their cars, like the wacky races, and just follow him to the next town. And so they're thinking, thank God, now it's a different police force. But then it all starts again. He goes into a town centre. Everyone knows who he is now because they're all watching this. This is like 2 days in. They're watching it on the cameras and the live stream. So everyone goes to meet this guy in the car during a kidnapping.
Right. This actually sounds like the script for Demolition Man, if you've seen that, where
Sylvester
Stallone, where in the future, basically, they have a very nice, safe society, very PC, very chilled. Everyone's like, oh, very polite. Yeah. And then one gangster turns up from like 1990 and just blows their society
They don't know how to deal with violence.
They just don't know how to deal with it. They're like, this guy's just murdering and pillaging, and it's like a video game.
But when you're watching the main guy is really
it's like this.
Quite nice.
They just don't know how to deal with he's a bad guy, but he's just one dude.
But they turn the cameras and the sort of police 200 feet away, just standing there having cigarettes.
Peering out beyond the corner.
Yeah, like they don't know what to do. And because he's moved to another town, it's sort of reset.
I have to say, where's this famous German efficiency, eh?
Yeah, exactly. But they go to this town centre. They go in, they're bringing them out coffees and like croissants and things, and they're just sitting there in the car talking, having cigarettes with them all. Meanwhile, they've got the girl now who's sat there in the back. So there's the guy in the front, the woman's there, another guy in the back with the girl with the gun, so I thought like that. And he's talking to her again, and how are you? You feeling? She's going, yeah. She's clearly in shock. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. Is everything okay? Are you going to do this? Do you think, how about I come and you can take her? No. Well, she looks a bit scared. The woman's going, look, whatever his name is, take the gun, you're hurting her. Like, take the gun away. But he's like, this. And you think, he's going to go. And they're just yapping, friendly, laughing. He's sitting there having a cigarette, another box of drink, more coffees are coming out. They're sitting there. This is the second day. And then he says, right, we're going to go now. And there's like 200 people surrounding the cars trying to get photos. There's one guy going, this is disgusting. So this is 2 days in. He's all over the news. Police still haven't got involved in it. And then they have to drive off. And the journalist is going to people, get out the bloody way. Let him go. Let him move out. So then they have to drive off again. And then they lose them. They drive off down the road. And this is the third day, is that they've accelerated off and they've found them somewhere. And if you don't, that's why it's not a film. It's just their police eventually, on the third day, decide the best thing to do with the woman in the back is when the car was going down the motorway, they get two Mercedes and they slam into it.
Okay.
Car flips over. The girl gets shot and killed. One of the guys dies in the car crash. The car's upside. You go, what is that? That's your plan to save somebody, was to wait till they're out in the motorway and slam into them with two cars and flip the car over. So then the guy, he shot the girl anyway. But when you're watching it and thinking, this is quite funny, this has been going on for so long. But then you have to keep looking at the girl who's like this for a day. She's had this thing to her throat like that with this guy. And they said then there was a law it was a massive investigation. Nobody took blame for it, and nobody got arrested because of it. They all sort of blamed the mayor. He quit or something like that. I said the girl got shot. She's only 18. And they said, but because of that, then journalists are now not allowed to have anything to do with the thing. Because for there's nothing left to say to this guy. They've been talking for so long, they're just yapping about anything. Tell us about your background. And you're looking, and the girl in the back with a gun like that the whole time. He's just got this gun to her neck. And I
thought you were going to say it was like Dog Day Afternoon, where they just kept going, okay, could you mind just putting the gun down, please? Because, in case you get a bump. And he's going to go, okay, cool. And then it's going to go blam.
Well, it was funny when the lady says, look, she looks over, she goes, oh, look, this girl isn't. And the woman says, what's her name? Take your gun, you're scaring her. Take the gun from her, because he's like this. And he sort of does this, but he's scared that. And he's like, Jesus Christ. But when you watch it play out, you go, I don't understand that there was no police. This doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so that's not like 2 random documentaries. You've got to watch them just as a
You need to now. You tell me everything.
No, but I think sometimes you need to see these things. I mean, I was like, because I got the TV, I automatically know everything about World War II, black and white and colour.
Oh, yeah.
There was nothing else to watch. But I tried to watch through it just to figure out what happened. I can't watch the uprising. I have to watch from if there's 10 episodes, I can only watch from 7 onwards. I refuse to watch them when they're gloating and everything's. I put it on at 7 when they start sweating.
Only like it's when they start going the other way.
Yeah,
Basically.
I tried it. I thought no, and I skipped it. And I thought no, and I read the thing. I thought right, I'll start there, and I read the 7th one where they start turning on each other. I thought right, I don't want to watch the uprising. Yeah, so anyway, so this is my show. So yeah, Jenny, so you've done everything. It's absolutely fantastic. You've made it work. That thing that when people leave acting school and presenting, you've made it work. You've gone through it. How many generations is that then of acting? 6?
What are we?
6 decades.
From 1970 to now. It's 5 decades, is it? 5.
We've heard about the sackings and things. What were your best memories?
Oh, there's loads of them.
Nothing amazing, but something you go, oh, I really like that job.
Oh,
Gardening.
That was an interesting.
Are you an
job.
actual gardener? Then that's why you did it, or was it just a presenting?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of am. I haven't got the patience. You
Okay.
weed, and then you go back, and there's a weed, and then you pull it out, and there's another fucking weed, and so it goes on. But we have got a lovely garden. And I'd spent 2 days ago potting things, but there are little memories. One is sitting next to Gene Hackman. He's 96 now, and I couldn't speak.
Wow.
Because we're talking 1980, 81. James Taylor was on the same show, and he dedicated a song to me, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And Little Richard signed me a photograph
Right.
because TVAM had all these starry people. But and on Good Food Live, we birthed Gino De Campo, and we birthed Paul Hollywood, and we brought. I say we because I'm a team player.
Yeah.
I like working with.
So the TVAM, you enjoyed being there?
Well, yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, it was my first job in television, and I was embarrassed by it because I'd been this girl on stage with my fist in the air, spitting at police vans. Yeah. And then I often pretended it wasn't me. Somebody stopped me in the Dickens Inn in Wapping and said, "There's a girl on telly looks just like you." I said, "Is there?" Because I was embarrassed.
Why were you so lefty, if you know what I mean?
Because
because of your upbringing and feeling like the outsider.
Yeah, look, I was born in the East End in 1949, and my father had fought the fascists, and somebody who was in our life was a guy called Jack Dash, who was a Dockers leader. But most Jewish people, I say most, a lot of people were on the left because of what had happened. And I grew up, my father was a boxer. And when I got sacked from TVAM, he said, "What's the matter with you?" And I said, "Well, I feel like I'm cornered." And he said, "Well, the boxing ring's got 4 rings and you're only in one of them. Get up and get out." Yeah. So my relationship is us and them. Yeah. It's still us and them.
Yeah, you can never really catch up. It's always because those younger years.
But also the polarization of what's happening now. We're sitting like dead ducks and we're watching them screw the shit out of us. We don't have to be paying this amount of money for electricity and gas. They don't in France. They aren't anywhere else. Yeah. And they're making billions, and we're sitting there going, "It's awful, isn't it?"
Posting record profits, I might add. BP
bonuses through the roof. Gas, things are going great.
The shareholder dividends, paying out billions in shareholder dividends in the last couple of months. Yeah.
Well, this is why when I turn the radio on, I have to turn it off. I think my words are you going to do anything? No. Then why? Just carry on complaining. No. That's what. But
when I write a blog, and when I get angry, I have 1 or 2 people in my life who say, "I'm very upset about your anger. Where do you get your anger from?" Well, where do you want to begin? And one woman said to me, "It feels like you're attacking me." And I should have said, "If the cap fits, wear it." But I didn't say that. But my experience of growing up, I was different, and I didn't know that I was different. But then we're all different in our own ways. But we were the Jews. We were moved out. We were slum clearance. And there was a lot of anti-Semitism when I was growing up. Big time, big time. And then because I was this kind of, as a kid, I was a protege on the piano. I had a syndrome. It's not that, well, it sort of is there now, but I'd stopped. Yeah. And I got my mother to write an essay for me about going on holiday, because I knew that this posh school was going to ask, what did you do on your summer holidays? I didn't have holidays till I was 31. Didn't know what holidays were. And so my mother wrote me this thing called Stopperton, which was stop at home.
Stopperton, yeah.
And I had my brother's blue V-neck sweater, and I had it under my sleeve. And I got into
letter.
The little essay. She'd written me this wonderful little essay, and I went in and I copied it, and they thought I was a genius. Of course they did. My mother had written it. Right. And I was there for 2 years, but my father couldn't afford all the uniform, which you had to buy from Harrods, because there were brown knickers and brown overshoes.
Was it a private school?
It was a 2-year private school, which I got a scholarship to.
I had to buy from Harrods.
Yeah. And my father walked into Harrods with a bulging back pocket with all the money he'd done in the markets, all that stuff. And when it got to Wimbledon, in the second year I was there, the whole school went. And I tried to get on the coach, and the head teacher said, not you. And I was left alone. Now, I'd been done for wearing a CND badge, and I'd been done for eating a Mars bar at the bus stop, and I'd also been done for taking my brown beret off, which you weren't meant to do. But they left, and I watched the coach with 169 kids. And so I walked in dog shit, found it in the gardens, and walked it through all over their carpets and in
get a bit of justice back. And you've been doing that ever since.
And I have
through the media landscape. Metaphorically, I should say.
But I mean, but the thing is that then I went to a secondary modern school for 2 years, and secondary modern schools then were fantastic. We had an organic garden, and we had this, and then I went to the grammar school. And when I got to the grammar school, a bit like you, I suddenly thought, oh, this is what it's like to learn. Yeah. And there's books, and there's teachers, and there's quiet. And I got all the exams that I needed. And there was a teacher there, Mr. Rangy, who took me by my wrist and said, you will go to drama school. Yeah. We didn't know what drama school was, and he paid for all my auditions. Really? So it's, in answer to your question, really, it's always come to me. And I've always been open. I haven't, it's a terrible thing to say, I haven't really made a decision until, well, when I had to give the flat up in Battersea, when I left Radio London, and I did a lot of work for Radio Sussex. That was a gorgeous job, very local. That's a job I like. Yeah. Brighton. I mean, what don't you love? And there was next door a lovely coffee place. COVID stopped everything. And then you're faced with, who are you? Yeah. So I went to see a friend of mine who is a kind of mad witch doctor therapist.
Lovely.
And she said to me,
cool.
She's not a friend. Well, she is a sort of friend. She said to me, didn't you know you were going to get old? I said, no. She said, didn't you know that you were going to run out of money? I went, no. She said, didn't you know that you were going to become unknown? I said, no. Why would I think that? She said, well, you're old, poor, and nobody knows who the fuck you are. Get on with it. And I had 10 minutes of where you go dry in your mouth and your body pixelates in your skin. And then I thought, get on with it. And so after rocking backwards and forwards in the chair, I've always written, but now I write. I've written a comedy drama, which we're doing.
And what's the, you said you got a podcast?
We haven't started it yet. We are about to launch it. And I was thinking about this place. I don't know how we're going to do it yet, but it's called, I mustn't give it away. They told me to keep quiet. But it's coming from where I'm coming from now, which is old, except it's an energetic thing. I read in the paper on Sunday, if you're cheerful, you walk into a room, everybody else feels cheerful. Yeah. So people don't think I'm 73. I couldn't give a fuck if they do think I'm 73, but I haven't got the energy of a 73-year-old because I haven't caught up with it yet.
Yeah. I was going to say you actually have a bit of energy. Like
I do, well, yeah.
Oh, so some of the people I've had to talk to. But what you don't see is that what you are, when you talk about being old and the thing, you don't see that that's now back in fashion.
Of course I do. Listen, I am probably one of the most devious women you will ever.
There's this way of getting a compliment.
Listen, with the compliments.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Marxism teaches you is opportunism. And when the Good Food Live finished, I knew it had only just started, these blogging things, and they didn't want me to do it, but I did it.
Yeah.
And I started writing a blog, and I was telling them everything that was happening, that they're going to get rid of us and they're going to do this. And there was a kind of outcry. And I knew I had a kind of instinct that blog would do something for me. And about 2 months ago, I wrote a blog. Somebody wrote, "What lovely, lovely writing, you old fart." And I contacted him, and it was a geezer I'd worked with in 1981, and we are doing the podcast.
Yeah.
And he's an award-winning BAFTA filmmaker, or this one or that one. So my opportunism is I'll sit very quietly. I can't, she's lovely, she knows, is nodding, but I can't plan. My husband, it drives him mad. I'm really spontaneous. And if my instinct says, don't touch it with a fucking barge pole, I don't. But this podcast feels good.
Yeah.
Feels like we'll do it. I don't know anything about it. I've no idea how you...
No, but you being you and the things you carry with you has now, you're not the minority anymore, and there's not many people like you to go to.
You're telling me I've got competition? This is awful.
I'm telling you haven't got the amazing... The varied things that I listen to, they all, like these shows, they keep going, people keep talking about the word old school. They want the old school stories because everything's so cheap and tacky and lacking in knowledge and hollow and quite vacuous, where you have to go back to stories of living and struggle and pain.
Yeah, it's interesting that I get...
There seems to be more theatre in life like previously.
I talked to my cousin the other day, and he was describing the movie Die Hard 4 as being old school. So...
Was it in black and white?
But I think the key is, and I wrote in one of my blogs, we're living in historically hysterical times.
Yeah.
How do you survive it? And it's all psychobabble. But if you don't stay in the moment, absolutely in the moment, you are truly fucked.
Yeah.
And when you get to 73, people say, how are you? And I say, I woke up in the morning, I didn't die in my sleep. It's real because you start thinking about death and the life at the end of the tunnel. And also, that's partly my problem with gardening, because it just thinks, is that what you do when you get old?
Yeah, you've still got that image of what it means.
But of course, it's nonsense. It is, and so for me, the podcast that we will be doing is about being old, being ancient, being vintage. But I'll tell you a story.
Yeah.
When I lived in the East End in Wapping, I used to do yoga. And I had a wonderful teacher, Indira Nath, who used to say, look after your buttocks. You've got to put your buttocks further. Anyway, great. We left London.
As true today as it was back then, yes.
So how we wouldn't have known the future. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then I ended up working at the BBC, and I used to come up, and we used to make lots of little films. I used to come up with an idea. And the idea was ancient and modern. And I sent somebody down to Hastings, and there was Indira Nath, 84, still teaching yoga. And I went to interview him, and I said, do you remember me? Of course I remember you. He said, with a nodding head, brilliant. And I was holding his arm, and then something said, I said, I shouldn't be holding your arm, should I? He said, no, I'm a Swami. So I removed my arm. But this man had one meal a day, slept on one little bed, and people from all over the place came to be taught yoga. What's happening is I think there's a transition in society. I don't understand the age of Aquarius, but I'm told that's what we're coming into. And one of the things that my dad used to say to me is, when those capitalists are up against the wall, they will be like baying animals and they'll take everybody down. And that's what we're watching. We watch people in a corner screaming and fighting, and the poor little fuckers, the untermenschers, are getting the brunt of it. I think most people in my industry, I didn't want to do presenting. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. I was doing a sitcom, and somebody said, this is, what was TVAM? What do you call it? A current affairs program. I had no
right.
I've never watched television. When I met Michael Parkinson, I kept calling him Malcolm, which is probably why they ended up sacking me. But
Michael doesn't like it when you call him Malcolm. Yeah.
he was lovely. In the end, he was great because he used to write all my own little shows. But it was that thing of understanding, it's why you do this, of being useful. And when COVID happened and I didn't feel useful, now I'm beginning to see.
Yeah.
I mean, you finding out, and I said to somebody out of nowhere, this has come out of absolutely nowhere. And it feels like it's a little glimmer. It feels like a piece of grass has poked through the concrete and that I'm about to start again because we're cycles. Because I think the transitioning of what's happening with global warming, great. I look beautiful with my tan skin, but it frightens the shit out of me.
Yeah,
and
no,
I don't know what to do about it.
That is the thing. Is for the record, we have been having a few weeks of very, very hot temperature. This is for our future listeners, if there is a future. And it's kind of at the same time, it's kind of nice because it's sunny. We don't get a lot of sun in this country, but then there is the hotter it gets, there's a bigger thing at the back of my head.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's benign.
Yeah.
But it's telling me that this isn't good and this is getting worse. And I can see it's been getting worse just in my lifetime, like last 20 years. Yeah. I can see just from looking about.
But when you get where I am, there was a wonderful writer called Grace Paley. In the beginning of a book, she apologized to her kids and grandchildren for not changing society. I have such faith in that girl there and you people, from the even little people. I know a lot of tiny little people in my life.
Cool.
And one of them, I bought an elephant. And she said, why? You sponsor an elephant. She said, why? I said, what do you think is going to happen to the elephants? She said, I think they're going to die. I said, what do you want to do? She said, I want to save them. So I bought her an elephant. But that generation, and the father said to me, I do hope that you are not, causing insurrection in her life. Of course I
Yeah.
I'm
Fight,
dropping the C's all the time. And it isn't, in the end, it's not about politics, because politics is corrupt and stinks the way we see it, and there's lies and nobody knows what the truth is anymore. And you ask me, what paper do I read? Well, I read the Daily Mail online. I don't pay for it because everything they say, I know the opposite is true.
Right, yeah, just do the opposite. Yeah.
Yes, I read The Guardian and the Daily Mail every day.
Right.
I even go on the Daily Mail comment section because I'm like, right, okay, what does the average crazy person on the bus really think?
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, okay, this is as bad as I thought it would be.
Exactly, but it's also... I do. I was a news junkie, not so much now, but ITV News, I am in love with Tom Bradby. I want to have his children if I had the ovaries. I want to massage him. I want to kiss him because he sits on national television and gives us comment. And finally, you've got, because the BBC, you can't do that. You've got to be impartial, which is why I was always getting sacked. Yeah. But on ITV, they break stories, bad and lovely. It's nodding, it's kind of, terrible housing, terrible this, terrible that. And that fucking Eton mess are just, I can't speak. This is what my podcast will probably be about.
Well, yeah, no, I say to everyone, they're not going to change and it won't even stay the same. They'll always push a little bit further. So this could be the good times. You don't even know it yet. It'll get worse and worse until you do something.
Well...
Isn't that there's a saying?
I think things will. I think
they have to change. Listen, nothing stays the same. Go on.
Yeah, but you would have said that 5 years ago, and they would have said that. It's always worse.
Yeah, but they've been there for 12 years, and nobody's questioned it. And the pandemic, people's brains were fried.
That's accelerated it. Yeah, there's a saying. It slightly it uses the wrong term, man, but tough men produce easy times. Easy times produce weak men. Weak men produce tough times. Tough men. And it is, you do have to be pushed. And it's funny enough, I mean, I'm wearing the ring of Malcolm X, who said, when somebody asked him, why do you think things have become so popular now? He said, the season has to be right for the people.
Yeah,
when
course.
the season's right, it pushes up the roots
Yeah,
of
but no,
certain
you're
people.
too young. When were you born? What year? Oh, darling, I love it. What year were you born?
83.
83. So you bypassed the riots that we had. You know, there were riots. And I was saying, when I had a band, when I was in a band, I wrote Wolverhampton, a terrific little town where the Ku Klux Klan and it was one of those because I've lived through pure. We started Rock Against Racism, and I was on stage doing all that. So we've watched it happen. And when Steve Bannon got in America, that fascist. Cupid, I can't even say the word, Jeremy Hunt, when he got, he said every 70 years you have to dismantle the society. And that's what the fascist right wing are trying to do. There's a truth in that. You have to dismantle what's going on. The question is, how do you rebuild? You do not do it with plastic grass turf. You have to think.
Yeah, there's no point fixing it with the same models because human beings...
What did Einstein say?
Change.
You can't change the thing with the very thing that you started with. And also Gandhi, all right? Look at old Gandhi with his bed sheet and his naked foot. So a woman went to him and said, tell my son not to eat sugar. He said, go away. Go away. She came back 3 weeks later. Tell my son not to eat sugar. He said, don't eat sugar. She said, how come you can tell me now not to eat sugar? But he said, because I've stopped eating sugar.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And to go back to your honours list, if you're going to live the truth, you're going to walk the walk and talk the talk, you've got to do it properly. And our mob up there, who is Liz Truss? What I'm asking, what kind of underwear does that woman read?
Well, Charles thinks she's a robot.
Well, if she...
a programmed
She looked like one of those...
her underwear, just for a moment.
Oh, do I have to?
Yes, because that underwear will describe that tight gusset, those tight, nasty little white bras that will go grey in the wash. I don't wear any. I don't wear any underwear.
I think they're clean. I'll give her that. I don't see her walking around and I should really change these. You know what I mean? I'll give her that. It's like going,
yeah, but I can
probably get another
robots
day
don't need underwear.
In the past, I bet she went to the laundry basket and took out a pair of dirty drawers.
We all have. But we've all contemplated wearing swimming trunks for a day.
What do we make of Rishi, though? You see, there's another one.
It's just another one. It's there's nothing to pick from there. It's just
no. One is exceptionally rich, and the other one is exceptionally stupid. I mean, it's just.
Well, I've said this before, when he had to go to the petrol station and he went in to pay with his card and he didn't know how to use the card and he put it up like that, and the guy had to take it. He doesn't know how to pay.
All of their interactions with people, and they take them out.
You can. I'm sorry to interrupt. In fact, I'm not sorry to interrupt. But you cannot underestimate what the job is. You cannot underestimate it. So, do I fast for 7 days? Why? Because I need energy if I'm going to be at the barricades. And the oldest expression in the world was, which side are you on? The working class don't know who it is anymore. The working class are so muddled and want to be uply mobile. People who have nowhere to live. Homelessness is going to go off the fucking Richter scale, and we all know this. And that lovely Martin Lewis bloke saying, don't not pay your bills, just withdraw your direct debit. It faces me. I'm an old age pensioner. You're not paying me. I'll do this because I love you. I didn't know I would, but I do. And we have got, rocketing, whatever. I know how to live on a £5 a day because I've done it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't. We've had such ease. Yeah. I'm asking you, your generation, what do we do?
I'm very palpable. You've got to start tearing things up and start again. You've got to look at the whole model. There's no point having more.
How do we do it? How do we go within, or do we throw Molotov cocktails?
The roots have to change underneath to push everything out. So it's got to be the system of politics has to change. This privatized school. I always say, just take money out of it. Whatever the system is, make sure there's removal of money from it. So if you're going to do that job, you can't, for 10 years after, you can't benefit from this, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. A set of rules.
My old git would say, everybody has to have a universal wage. You give everybody a universal wage.
They're doing that in America. They've actually done it in a couple of cities to see how it works. And I'll tell you what, It's true because again, boots on the ground. When I was living in shared accommodation when I was younger, there was people there that were as nice as anybody else you'd know. Friendly, kind, warm. We had no money. They'd share 50p's. But they would force every now and again to go and break stuff or burg, and they would put it off because they didn't have money, where the bloody dole office would cancel you because they want you to on 1 week, or they'd have a special person to come down and would find all loopholes, and you can't get any. And I would see they'd go quiet on the third day because they know they've got to go out and commit a crime. I saw that in 3 houses with 10 people. About 5 of those had to do that.
People are doing that kind of weird, benign thing when they go to the supermarkets. I know somebody. She's kind of mid-40s. She's adorable. She's got 2 kids. She never pays for the shitty carrots. She buys the organic, but she pays for the shitty carrots. She doesn't buy the organic. That must be going on all the time. But now they've got...
My mate used to do that the whole time. He used to go to the reduce to clear section and just he'd have a little wet thumb and just start going...
Wasn't it you that would go to eat the mayonnaise and the ketchup sachets, or was that something else?
Oh no, that was me when I was really poor. Yeah.
When you
when we went...
I stole a box of mayonnaise, I stole a box of ketchup, and I just mixed them together for 1,009 sauce. I had some pasta, like thing of pasta. So,
Absolutely perfect. Yeah. I mean, listen, we've all been there, and also, who makes the rules? You know, there's a whole movement of sovereignty, which I don't know, but my nephew, who is utterly brilliant, he keeps saying, don't pay the bank back. Look at sovereignty, and in the end, they will have to wipe your debt. But we're too feeble. My husband and I were just too frightened we're going to get nicked.
Well, it's only people that have had struggle that say, well, I'll just go back to being poor again. It's not a big deal for me. In fact, Muhammad Ali, one of the things he said when they said, we're going to put you in jail, he said, well, I've been poor for 90% of my life. It's just a few more years. It's like you can't threaten me anymore.
Exactly.
So there's not a big... But I...
Let me just say, I've got to say, because I've been saying, I love Prince Charles. I love... Who else do I think she's lovely, the William and all the rest of it. I do not agree with the system, but I think that they are desperately trying to be real and to change things. And they do have evidence that countries who live under a monarchy are happier and safer. I don't know how true that is. But I think if your people up top are beginning to mouth stuff at us and it can change things. The one thing I'm really not looking forward to is when Her Madge dies, when Betty Windsor kicks, we are going to be living through...
It'll be like a Jeremy Carr show. There'll be no moral... I mean, she's barely holding it together.
It's not that. I'm talking about the media coverage. We'll have 3 weeks.
Oh, yes. Yeah. How perfect everything was. Don't you remember?
They'll be measuring everyone, how loud they clap. And
well, it would just be when
Boris Johnson did his final farewell... Hasta la vista, baby thing. All right. Cool. Timely reference for a film that is 31 years old, by the way. I love the film, but, you know.
And what film is it?
That's Terminator 2 he was referencing. Because he didn't want to say, I'll be back.
Yeah.
No,
which is the other catchphrase from that. So he supposedly went with Hasta la vista.
Yeah.
So you can't trust that man. I interviewed him years and years and years ago, and I couldn't speak.
Johnson.
Yeah. I couldn't speak because he's very powerful. He's a fat, lardy, powerful man who marries a woman. And I would say, Sinead, if you look at his wife, Carrie Johnson, what an unprepossessing creature she is. She gets away with nice dresses, but if you look at her fucking profile, they are...
They
are what they are.
And
it's a them and us. And that's your generation has got to bring that together. We've got to.
Well, we've got a script about what if there's a revolution, if it actually happens 10 years down the line because of a series of accidents where people have enough. We've got a script.
I was going to say about my bit with Parliament. Sorry, they had a bit and everyone stood. He said Hasta la vista. He walked off.
Sorry.
Everyone stood up and clapped.
Yeah.
You know, for the leader.
Robots,
and Theresa May, there was a big deal because Theresa May got up ever so slightly later. She sat down for a few seconds and did stand up and applaud, but she waited for 2 or 3 seconds. And that was on the front page of the Mail with claims that she was a traitor and secretly plotting to undermine him.
Just from that pause.
Yeah. I'm so sorry to have interrupted.
No, it's
that's a really good story.
But it's just awful because you're not clapping loud enough. You know what I mean? You're not standing up quick enough.
You've got the Bill of Rights in America and the what's the English one? The
European thing of human rights, Bill of Human Rights.
So they didn't just come out of nowhere. They had to be written. Yeah. So that's what you do.
Yes, but you're living in a society. Who's it for? Who is the news for? And who are the laws for? And who is holding on to what they're for?
Yeah, but all that can be evaporated when you remove money.
But that's true.
Then there's no need for the evil to go that way. Let them be CEOs and whatnot. You have to have people at the top. The whole thing of fish rots from the head down. But media thing, it all becomes like America. The pharmaceutical companies, the media, the politics, it all starts to become the one group of families. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean,
if you take money out, they go, well, I'm not going to do that.
I'll tell you something interesting. When the MMR thing happened, when it all finished, I got contacted by a group of alternative lawyers who represent homeopaths and all sorts of people. And they said, we could not get involved because we feared for our life from Big Pharma.
Yeah.
Now, we are looking at, there are forces of I don't think it's, diabolic, but I think I can't come up with solutions because I've been fighting for so long. My knees have gone. Your generation has to do it. And it can't just be glib. You've got to have strategies. You've got to you've got to look at what you're doing and you have to articulate so that the kids under you are going to articulate. Yeah. Because we've only got a percentage now of people that will be going back into Parliament, the ones who got educated.
Wasn't the suffragettes there? What was their motto? Words, not deeds. No, deeds, not words.
Words, not deeds.
Yeah. That's politics.
Yeah. Theory over
that's
practice.
It. Yeah, stop. I can't. When people stop talking. Tell me what you're going to do, and I'll go there. But no marching, no talk.
Well, I think what's interesting is the next cycle, because I think this government is coming to an end. I do think that they will probably lose the next election. Liz Truss.
Who's going to front the Labour Party?
I don't. I think the Labour Party will.
It should be Mickey Lynch, really.
They will trip into power. Basically, they will sort of trip over something and by accident, not through anything by their own design, but just by being there long enough. Yeah, they're sort of like the friend who becomes a boyfriend type of thing. They're just in the room for a long enough time at the back, and eventually, by process of elimination, they get through all the other candidates, and then they're still there. So the thing is they have to deliver, I think, and it's like with Joe Biden in America.
How much is it? 360 odd billion now for climate change he's given.
Out of $2 trillion to start with, as well.
Well, listen,
they're always going to highball that figure. I understand, but like.
But it is a message. He's old, and you need a younger group. Where is Camilla Harris in all this? I find it quite interesting. But it's the beginning of something, isn't it? Or you don't trust it?
He has to. But I'm saying he has to deliver, because you had Trump, and that was a disaster, and he was awful, and eventually nearly led the country into chaos and authoritarianism, but by trying to overthrow the government. So you have to offer an alternative. Okay. So here's the other side, the alternative, and I think they have to deliver. They have an opportunity now in America, and I think we will have an opportunity in this country within the next few years, where an opposition party is going to get into a position of power, and they will have to tangibly better people's lives. Yeah. And so, because otherwise, guess what? The far right will come in and they will offer them, they won't deliver because I don't think those policies can, but they will offer them a solution. And what we're currently doing right now is that I don't think Keir Starmer will change things dramatically or will be the answer.
Well, he's only a mouthpiece.
He's better than the current government. But I think he really has to deliver, because if we get 4 or 5 years of a Labour government, and then we're kind of in exactly the same spot as we are now, I think people go, screw it, I'm going back to the Tories, Yeah.
At
least they're a bit more fun. At least, like, they'll get in someone, I don't know, they'll find someone worse than Boris, who's a complete...
George Monbiot, do you read him? No. You must read or get people to read it to you. George Monbiot has lots of solutions to stuff, because that's the other thing, is I have a wonderful German friend. She's very, very kraut. And I've known her for a long, 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 long time. When I first met her, she's an acupuncturist, top acupuncturist. When I first met her, she said, I wonder how you can get undressed in front of your husband being quite so fat. And I thought it was really funny until later on. I thought, what the bloody hell? But anyway, she was round the
It was
table.
so outrageous to commit to do it. Hang on a
She's at the
second.
bus stop. Hang on.
And she's size 6 and still windsurfs, and she's nearly 70. She's amazing. But anyway, we're all sitting around the table in our cottage, and my nephew's there, and there's a bit of, and his missus, and we're all sitting having a big barney, and there's a big pause, and she said, it's all very well to tear things down, but what is your solution?
Yeah.
And I don't know anymore. My blog is full of it. I don't know what to do.
Something will pop up. Something will pop up. It's just the internet has spilled all the poison out so everyone can see. That's what we've got. At least now children coming up can go, right, we know, we can see what you are now. We've seen past the mirage of what you present. And now they're struggling, but you will have that, like a cornered animal, they will fight back harder the more closer you get to and there will come a tear. And we might be around to see that.
Yeah, well,
and that's when other people will pop out.
Yeah,
well,
and I think people will sacrifice. I think people know that they're being sacrificial, like they are in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one, the Ukraine thing, isn't it? But no, please, Charlie.
what the hell was I going to say?
No.
Sorry, I shouldn't have done
Just-
that. I wanted because we've got to wrap up.
Wait.
Go on.
No, it's good.
Go.
You don't even.
No, wait a minute. Go.
You don't even.
That
That was one of the best.
Imagine a really, really good point. A really interesting
Right,
take. Yeah?
I wanted to ask, because you've been around for so long with the acting, you've done so many things. Did you, because you've seen, again, you alluded to it, you've seen so much. Did you have any problems with the Me Too thing at any point with all that? Because
Yes,
you
of
went
course I did.
I was going to say, you've never met, I didn't see anything about it.
The
But did
reason
you-
I have a problem with it, of course, the Weinsteins, and of course and what really disturbs me is the Jewish. Both of these Hillocks were Jews, and Epstein. But I think you've got to look at the reality of stuff, and I'm still very confused about it all. But I do have a problem with the woke thing. And I'm not sure why. It's just I haven't articulated that when I watch... when the feminist movement started in 1970, I went to a thing in Leeds. It was one of the first ever feminist meetings. And I went all on my own, and there was a separatist group and a feminist group and a FimFac, Knick-Knack, Billy Butt.
Scientologists, two Scientologists.
And of course, as a woman, I absolutely agree with you. Your body's your own, you make your own decisions, and so on. But I stood up after this great, massive onslaught and said, do you ever talk about love? And they shouted me down and laughed at me because I'm outside the notion of... I stop because I can't articulate it. There's something about the woke movement that disturbs me.
Well, there's a thing behind that. You've got to answer that say Russia or China, when they want to, and I've said this before, what they do is they have to alienate the people in the middle. There's too less people on the extremes. There's not enough to sway things. So they have to alienate the people in the middle. And you do that by growing either side, left and the right. So what's happened with the left woke thing, which you sort of think, well, why? I shouldn't hate that. I shouldn't dislike it.
Why do you dislike it?
I don't. And this is the thing, because I know I'm being tricked. Fairness, loyalty, understanding. Yeah, that's not a bad thing. So why do you feel like it's a bad thing? Because what they do is they don't just fund the right. They also fund the extreme left, knowing that they'll annoy you. So they find the most extreme leftist they can, who then just, tell them they're not saying enough. Tell them that you're not doing enough. Tell them...
Hyper-normalisation.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's...
hyper-normalisation.
Yes.
So what you do, that you'll fund right-wing fascists, conservative politicians.
Who are these they?
It's a thing that the Russia... This was a theory put forward by one of the chiefs of staff, so I think Secretary of State or something now, for Putin. And he was talking about, this is a paper I think he wrote in the early teens. And it was an idea, it's political theory, basically you fund every side in your country and you just swamp everything with misinformation. So the idea is to just get people just so confused that they get checked out. This was his theory. Is that you fund far-right groups, you fund pro-homosexual groups, anti-homosexual groups, pro-abortion groups, anti-abortion groups, gun rights,
divide and
everything.
conquer.
You flood. An important thing is you flood misinformation. So bogus studies, stats, numbers, things, stories all over the place. So just no one has a clue what's going on, and there's no sort of shared reality, basically.
Well, you see, back in the early 70s, we toured Ireland, and I was sitting on a bus, and a an army soldier came up. You saw his rifle first, and he just looked around. I was in the Catholic district, and we visited people. And I've still got a piece of wood that was painted by a guy who was put in the prison in Long Kesh, whatever it was called. I can't remember now. And he wrote on the walls. It used to say, "Sectarianism kills the workers." And that is something that I feel a bit about the woke movement, is that we should all be in this together. And if you aren't using the right language, or, that it's coming up all the time. Frankie Boyle, I love that man. I've even stopped in the street and told him I loved him.
I just listened to his autobiography 2 weeks ago.
Is it brilliant?
Yeah, he hates everybody.
He hates
against
everybody.
every-
He hates
comedians, everything.
But I mean, comedians are being silenced. That beautiful Nish Kumar taken off air.
So what were you about to say about Frank?
Well, Frank Boyle, he was attacked for his left-wing politics and also the way he talks about stuff. Comedy is, what is it? Time plus tragedy? Isn't that the theory?
That's a bit,
the theory of comedy. If we can't laugh at stuff, and, as a Jew with a lot of my mob going the way, of sewage, and they made that film, what is it, My Beautiful Life, and people criticised it because the father wanted to look after his son in a concentration camp by making it a game. Yeah. And I think humour is important.
Yeah.
And the woke thing is kind of letting things seep away.
Yeah, you just have to tell yourself that woke isn't liberal. It's an extreme thing that's been funded by the right. They'll get the 15-year-old, tell them to get two people together to be angry at your parent.
So I'm not getting senile dementia when I don't understand what's happening.
Left, but you are left. You're as left as normal could be.
I'm more left.
Yeah, but the woke thing is just, it's a name to say extreme left, but you're not an extreme left. You're just somebody that's left.
I get
fairness and kindness.
People being arseholes on Twitter a lot. Like most,
You can't be
a lot
too
of
nice.
that stuff comes from the internet, and like people just being just arseholes on the internet, like effectively kind of bullying people about language or ideas or whatever. And ideally, everyone should be free and cool just to believe what they want. Mostly as long as they don't act on it,
Don't be nasty to people.
Because most people,
left.
you can be racist and stuff, but just don't do anything about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to wrap this up.
Oh, okay.
But what I'll say, listen, so I've been waiting since then to meet you, and I do think when my first blueprints of people being laid down, like these people, I've got a list of about 10 people that I went to as my paradigms of what I thought human being should be, and you were on that list of I remember the impersonation. I can remember being in a van driving tools before I knew what I was going to do in my life, listening to you and thinking, oh, there's a good person, and I absorbed the fact that there's a good person there, and that's why I kept an eye on you all those times until I sort of felt like I had enough excuse to ask to meet you.
I want to know who the other 9 are.
Oh God, there's Chris Gardner, he was the inspiration for Pursuit of Happiness, the real guy. Have you seen that? Him?
Yeah.
Michio Kaku, who dealt with theoretical physicists. V.S. Ramachandran, the neurologist in America. Oh God, I can't even think now. I've got a list of my on LinkedIn.
Blimey, I'm in really good company.
But there was I don't want to be rude, it was the mothering figure that I saw. There's a kind person. Somebody's being angry to you, because I was working in nightclubs at night, violence, hate. And here's you with people going, "You're a bloody silly," and go, "Well, I love you all the same, sweetie." And I'm thinking, I don't know what it did, but it stuck. And you don't know how much that becomes of you meeting other people and hearing other people. Even if you can't remember it, it stays with you. So I think sometimes, whether it's an autobiography or something, they can have as big an influence as a family member. It just sticks. You won't know it because you don't know who's influenced you. You can understand the big things, but little things that might set on a path something about me that's something.
I'll tell you, look, I used to have a guy, and we can finish after this, called Al King, who used to write me letters every day I was on TVAM, and it was a long time, and they were poems, and they were wonderful. And then the Daily Mail did a big feature on me and the old man, and it were big pictures. I've got them hanging at home. We were lovely, and we talked about how Jim had been married, and he had 2 children, and that we'd met, and then I got to TVAM. I got to work. I never used to want to call it work, but it was work. Got into work. There was a big brown box. Every single letter that I had written back to our king and all his stuff was in this box. And I opened the box and there was one piece of paper. And on the top it said, Jezebel.
That's a word you don't hear much of nowadays. It's a wonderful word. We can't end on that. I'll tell you what we will end on. I can't end on the word Jezebel.
All right.
No, I mean, it's a nice time, but it feels so... There was when Muhammad Ali was sort of banished and he was having to earn money by doing theatre plays and go and do speaking tours. And there's one, you can watch it as it's being done. He's talking to all the kids, people that hate him and everything like that. And someone shouts out, tell us a poem. And he said, I can tell you, he said the shortest poem in the world was written by another man. I can't remember the guy's name. And it's just, the poem's this, me, we, and that's it. And I thought, that's what it is, me, we, that's it. And that's the shortest poem there is. And I think that's a good place to end.
Well, so listen, thank you for having me.
This is just the start, Jenny. This is a door opened and we've crossed paths now. That's what it is.
It's just lovely. And also to say that what you have reminded me, I know we've come to the end of it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you can cut this bit out. But you make me feel useful. And that's...
Yeah, it's more than that. Because I've only got a list of people that I can go to that I remember things. There's a few people that I feel like I haven't earned the right to meet yet. And I don't expect them to meet. You know, whom I haven't. I've only just started now with everything, with the magazine, the pilot we've got, this podcasting that we're doing. I've just started now. So I'm out of the loop of life because I started life at 30. So I'm out of the loop of everybody doing stuff. So I really think I'm sort of like 22, 23 in terms of how long I've to educate. But how you do change stuff, I think the season's right for us. What we're saying now, it's right. And those people have stuck with it, are now the main faces that you didn't expect to be. But all that stuff you carry with you has now coincided. And now you're the thing that people are desperate for. And
can you give me money for electrolysis? Because they say I'm going to get a bit. No.
And how you do change things, even if, because the worst thing is to feel like individuals, is to know there's other yous out there. So when I meet people like yourself and like you go, yeah, you do know there's more of us than there are. In fact,
we.
Yeah, and wasn't there was the story about the two it is the parable or whatever you call it. There's two people in the Agora in Greece, whatever. And there's what they call like the patricians, the posh, not plebeians, the patrician, the posh class, and they're in they're in the Agora, and somebody comes up to them with the robe, starts talking to them, and then he realizes, he used to be a slave. This fellow I was just talking to. So he turns to his friend, and he said, "You know that guy we was just talking to? He used to be a slave." He said, "Now he's dressing like us and got all the stuff on," and he said, "We should make them wear like a band or something." And the guy says, no, you don't want them to wear a band, because then they'll realize how few of us there are and then how many of them there are. And I think that's what we need to do. Stop being individuals. Start doing this. Podcasting has come along. Internet's come along. And now you go, hang on, there's a lot more of us than you. And they're starting to get cornered now. So when I meet people like you, and I say to everyone that I meet, I only have best friends. There's no such thing as a friend to me. Everyone here is a best friend. And everyone knows it as well, by the way, whether they wanted to or not. And so I just see another friend. It's another open door. Anything I have, you have. And anything useful I can be, because we're doing a lot of stuff as well, is yours. And that's how you change stuff. We might not be the ones that change it, but just do what you do and something will pop along. So, Charles, did you want to say something just about to say goodbye?
Bye.
Oh, bloody hell.
Listen, say goodbye nicely with something.
Yeah. Well, he's not good at it. Well, you can't
being sincere, basically.
It felt awkward.
Yeah, he's no good at that. Unionise.
Yeah, unions will be coming back.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, Jenny, it's been a path I wanted to cross with you for a long, long, long time. You didn't know you were influencing people just by being you. That was your best skill. And here I am. So, Jeni Barnett, thank you very much. Karem.
Here's your story, let's begin. The water's fine, come on, dive in. The future's here, it's right before your eyes. Step by step, you're on your way. You're welcome to could be large